Now the next point of discussion is, historically, why have some people or some ideologies rejected the belief in Ma'ad and in the Day of Judgment? Number one, the first reason, they wanted to be off the hook without any restrictions so they can engage in corruption. Because see, believing in Ma'ad means you believe in some restrictions. You're going back to a Lord who's going to judge you. When you want to be free and do whatever you want, whatever your desires dictate, an easy way out is what? Just reject there's Ma'ad. So what's going to put you in check? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions this in the Holy Quran. أَيَحْسَبُ الْإِنسَانُ أَن لَن نَجْمَعَ عِظَامَهُ? Does the human being think we're not going to resurrect him and gather his bones? بَلَا قَادِرِينَ عَلَىٰ أَن نُسَوِّيَ بَنَانَهُ. Yes, we can. His fingers, we can resurrect them. Okay, then why does the insan reject the akhirah? بَلْ يُرِيدُ الْإِنسَانُ لِيَفْجُرَ أَمَامَهُ. Your real intent, you pagans, is to spread corruption. So no one holds you accountable. That's why you reject the akhirah. Otherwise, deep down, you know there is akhirah. You just want to be loose. Do whatever you want. يَسْأَلُ أَيَّانَ يَوْمَ الْقِيَامَةِ. You know, he's rejecting the Day of Judgment. Really? Where is this Day of Judgment? So the Quran tells us the underlying reason why many people reject the akhirah. And that goes back to our discussion of the Old Testament and why it was omitted. Those references to the Day of Qiyamah. Because why? When you put afterlife, heaven and hell out of the picture, basically you can do whatever you want. Exploit people, deal with interest, you know, all sorts of things you will do in society. What's going to stop you? What's going to stop you? Not much. That's the first reason why some people have rejected the Day of Judgment. The second reason, they've claimed there's no evidence. They said there's no evidence that there's a Day of Judgment. But as we have seen, there is intellectual evidence. If you believe that the universe has a creator, an originator, a God, it must follow that there must be a Day of Judgment. They also claimed that the belief in the Day of Judgment is asatir al-awwaleen. What's asatir al-awwaleen? The old myths and legends. What did they mean by that, the Arabs who said this to the Prophet? See, they had heard about the Day of Judgment from the Bible, from Christians, right? They had spoken about the Bible. So when the Quran confirmed the Day of Judgment, what did they do to dismiss the Day of Judgment? Oh, same myths as the Bible would talk about them. So you don't really have something new.
Or the Abrahamic faith.
Yeah, the Abrahamic faiths. Same old myths. Well, just because monotheistic religions talked about it doesn't mean it's a myth. The Quran says that I am confirming the truth in the previous books. But you know, they just wanted a way to discredit the Quran. Number three, and this is one of their most powerful misconceptions. They're like, we just cannot conceive that the dead can rise again. It's not possible. Now, some prophets of God would tell them, okay, you claim it's impossible, I'll revive the dead right now in front of you. How about that? وَلَئِن قُلْتَ إِنَّكُمْ مَبْعُوثُونَ مِنْ بَعْدِ الْمَوْتِ. When you tell them that God will resurrect you after death, this is Surah Hud verse 7, لَيَقُولَنَّ الَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا. Those who disbelieve, إِنْ هَذَا إِلَّا سِحْرٌ مُبِينٌ. They said, oh, that's sorcery. They were told, if right now the Prophet resurrects someone from the dead, will you believe? No, that's just sorcery. But they really struggled with the idea, how bones that become dirt, how will they be resurrected? That's just not possible. مَنْ يُحْيِي الْعِظَامَ وَهِيَ رَمِيمٌ. They said, who has the power to get the bones when they've become decomposed and become dust? Who can give life to them again? That's just not possible. How can the scattered dirt particles of the dead be nicely resurrected on the Day of Judgment? Allah gave them the answer. What's the answer Allah gave? Allah says, which is more difficult? To create from nothing, or to gather what you have and reassemble it and take it back to its original form? Which is more difficult? Subhanallah. Allah says that's the answer. It's very simple. The one who gave you life can re-give it. And basically, their idea is this dirt. How can it go back to life? The Quran says, look, you were created from that dirt. And modern science has confirmed that. The birthplace of all life on earth is clay. Science has confirmed that today. There are many scientific studies on that. So Allah is telling them, you, with all this life that you have, all this diversity that I have in this, on this planet, the origin of life is this clay. So if I was able to give you life from clay, why can't I resurrect you again when you become clay? What's the difference? In fact, the first one is grander and greater because there was no life and you gave it life. So this is an idea that they struggled. فَسَيَقُولُونَ مَنْ يُعِيدُنَا? Who has the power to resurrect us? قُلِ الَّذِي فَطَرَكُمْ أَوَّلَ مَرَّةٍ. Say the one who created you in the first place. He can. So the Quran also responded to this silly argument. Who has the power? Well, who had the power to generate this entire universe? And remember, the pagans were not atheists. In fact, atheism at the time of Quran was very rare. What were they? Polytheists. What does that mean? They believe in one God as the originator of the universe, but they believe He has partners, idols, that help Him, or they bring people close to Him. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions this very fundamental point about rising from clay. Ya ayyuhan nas, O people, in kuntum resurrection, فَإِنَّا خَلَقْنَاكُم مِّن تُرَابٍ. We created you from dust. Think about it. So these are beautiful pieces of evidence the Holy Quran gives us. Just think about your origin, how you originated from clay, and you'll see how Allah will resurrect you. And then the Quran gives us another beautiful living example. Allah tells these pagans, do you want me to show you every single day how I revive you? Allah says, look at a dead land. What does a dead land mean? There's no vegetation, right? Especially in more dry climates, this is visible. In the dry season, vegetation dies and you have nothing but dirt. Allah says, don't you see how it's just dirt? There's no life, no greenery, no vegetation. I send the rain on that land which is completely dead. You don't see anything on it. It's just dirt. I send the rain, I give it life again. Where did that life come from? From that dirt. Just like dirt gave, rise to that tree, to that vegetation, I can command this dirt to also resurrect those who died before. It's a beautiful example that Allah shared with them, just so they can get the idea that God can create from dust. This is a living example of resurrection. It's happening every single day. Now there's one interesting point here about atheists. I've spoken to some of them. They will tell you, they'll claim that no, I don't need to believe in an afterlife to have purpose in this life. I asked one of them, I'm like, okay, you do good deeds? He's like, yeah, I do good deeds. I don't need to believe in God to do good deeds. I help the poor. I'm like, why do you help the poor? What's the end result? It's like, I just like to help the poor. I'm like, but what motivates you? You help the poor, you're going to become dust. That person, your neighbor, hates the poor. He's going to become dust. Both of you are the same. In the end, when you're both put in your graves, you're completely equal. Doesn't matter what you did. All those good deeds that you did, they're gone. Doesn't matter. So why do you still do them? They're confused. There is something inside them, which we call the fitrah, of course, that pushes you to do good. See, Allah has put that desire for goodness or that internal compass in our subconscious mind. It's there. But really, if you ask them to articulate the purpose behind their life or why they do good deeds, they cannot articulate it for you. My own analysis is they know deep down there is something after death. They don't want to admit it. For many reasons. One reason is, the minute they admit there's an afterlife, they think they have to now subscribe to a religion, because that's the domain of religions. And for whatever reason, they're anti-religion. They either believe religion causes problems in society, or they believe religion takes advantage of people. And remember, Europe really suffered from religion. If you go back several centuries ago, they've had a bitter experience with religion. Especially when the Pope was ruling half of Europe. A lot of crimes were committed in the name of religion. People were actually burned alive at the stake by the direct orders of the Pope. Who would be burned alive? Criminals, murderers? No. Intellectuals, scientists, doctors, philosophers, thinkers. Oh, you're heretics? We're going to burn you alive. Burning someone alive obviously is going to, over the generations, create this hatred towards religion. Many crimes were committed in the name of the church or the name of religion. You can imagine why many people, basically turned away from religion. It's unfortunate, but this is the reality. So some people, some atheists don't want to believe in the afterlife because they think if I believe in the afterlife, I have to subscribe to some religion. And when they look at these historical events, like, I'm not interested. But deep down, they know there is an afterlife. That's one reason though why they reject the afterlife. Or, as we mentioned in the first reason, they want to be free. They're arrogant. They don't want to submit to God. Sometimes they say it. When they get angry and they reveal their true intentions, they do say it. Who's this God that I have to be subjected to? Who's this God who's going to impose His laws on me? See, you want to be free. I don't want any laws. I want to make up my own laws. I want to play by my own rules. It's a type of arrogance. So, in order for them to achieve that, they deny the akhirah. Otherwise, most human beings, I would say more than 99% of human beings, deep down, they do know somewhere that there is an afterlife. Even those who commit suicide. People who commit suicide, believe me, it's not that they think that's it, existence is over. Sometimes this life becomes too unbearable for them. They just want to end this stage and start the next stage. Even if they don't know what the next stage is, but they just don't want to continue this stage anymore. But they know there is some sort of afterlife.